Hello and welcome to People's View. And help me introduce you to Lynn Blackenbecker, who was running for CD2
Yes.
in National Congress.
Yes,
How
yes.
about
Hi.
that?
Thank you for having me. I really,
Well,
really thank you
welcome
very much.
aboard.
Yeah.
This is not something new for you. You were there 2 years
No,
ago.
we did. We ran in 2018.
Right. What are you doing differently now?
Well, in 2018, I don't know if you remember, but I had just come off of active duty, and it was in January.
Right.
And I came off of active duty and moved back to New Hampshire. I was in the Navy, and moved back to New Hampshire on January 5th. And on January 10th, we announced our run for Congress. So we were renewing this, back to the state. And, we really hit the deck running. We did a phenomenal job with a very small staff. I was number 5 of 7 people that ultimately came into the race on the Republican
That was
ticket
a
in
crowded
CD2. It was a very crowded field, very crowded field. But we did a great job. We worked really hard. We had a very small team. We fundraised pretty aggressively. But, I don't know if you remember, Carl, back then, there were, I believe, 25 people in the state of New Hampshire running for Congress between CD1 and CD2 on the Republican and the Democrat ticket.
Right.
So there wasn't much money to be had by the time I got in, and there certainly wasn't a lot of human assets. But we worked really super hard. We did a great job. We had a very close race in the primary. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you remember, but early in the primary, the night of election night, they actually called the race as mine. And then, as more votes came in, so it was a very, very close race all the way around. And so what we did was we sat back. Actually, on September 12th, Cook Politico put out a statement that said, New Hampshire just lost their only chance of winning this seat when Lynn lost the primary. So I kind of tucked that away and I thought about it. And then I went out and talked to a lot of my supporters, and they said, Lynn, you just got to try again. We really think that, you've got a great message. We really want you to represent us in Congress. So I then sat back and I found a new team. And we did a deep dive analysis on where we fell short. And what we discovered was we had a really hard time getting our message out wide enough. Short period of time, little bit of money. So thank you for letting me be on the show and helping message more this time. So then we developed a strategy that included a very aggressive fundraising strategy and a strategy for getting our message out. So if you have not looked at my website, on there is the first piece of the messaging, which was the video that we filmed. We filmed a commercial, and it's on there, so you can check it out.
Good. Yeah. And this will be on there. And what is your website? It's
www.blankenbecker. I'm going to spell that. BLANKENBEKER.com.
Okay.
And right there, it goes down, it talks about who I am, and then there's a little section in the middle that says The Fight, and that's where the video is. And you can click right on it, and you'll see the video. It's great video, very well produced, and we use it as our commercial and our advertising. Yeah.
Well, what's the biggest thing that you want to do if you get elected?
Well, there's a lot of issues out there. Oh, yeah. But, I'm really happy to say that as I go out and speak to people in the state of New Hampshire, what I'm not hearing rise to the forefront anymore is the economy. And that's really good. And the reason is because of our president's good policies. And so, but what I am hearing is that health care is still an issue for everybody. Affordable, accessible health care that is quality. And I'm really fortunate because after 33 years of working in health care as a nurse at the bedside, as a healthcare lawyer, doing healthcare policy at the Pentagon, and doing healthcare legislation with you when we were in the House of Representatives together. I have a really robust and broad background on all the areas where I believe we can bring common sense healthcare reform to this nation. And I can tell you what it won't be, and that's Medicare for all. A one-size-fits-all, $53 trillion healthcare plan is not what America needs. And so that's one of the reasons I think, one of the issues that I think are hot right now on the Granite Staters' mind. But, our president's policies have been so good, and you watch what's going on in Congress right now, and all these impeachment. They're an impeachment looking for a crime, and this has just gone on long enough, and they're dismantling our Constitution. They have not followed any constitutional process. We have, and so I think that we really have got to get some Congress people in Congress who are going to just stop the witch hunt, continue on with the president's good policies. They're really working for the state of New Hampshire. And one of the things I really want to work on is making sure that we get the USMCA passed. That piece of legislation, that trade deal, the trade agreement between Canada and Mexico, I don't know if you realize this, it's worth $1.1 billion
and it's so
to
close. You want to have a good relationship, and it seems that they should be pushing that right through.
Absolutely, and our congresspeople who are representing us right now, Ann Custer and Chris Pappas, are not pushing for this. And it's worth $1.1 billion to the state of New Hampshire. It'll bring estimated 22,000 new jobs to the Granite State. Last night I was up in the North Country.
Oh, that's
and
where
I was
you'll
at a
find it,
business.
yeah.
I was at a business and I asked a question. I said, if I were your congresswoman, what would be important to you? And they said, get this trade agreement passed. I'm losing business into Canada every day. And so it is important in our state, especially since we do border Canada. So,
Well, I agree with you there. That's most important for the whole country. I mean, and there's a couple others waiting to be signed off behind that, right?
Absolutely.
But that's one of the things that I think people don't appreciate, the work that's being done on trade. And that's going to improve not only our situation, but our friends, our allies, their situation.
Absolutely. That those partnerships are so great. And tax reform is another one. Folks right now in the Granite State are enjoying, on average, $1,400 this year extra in their pockets. That's a vacation. That is a extra Christmas presents. That's a down payment on a new car. And there's a lot of things you can do with that money. And so we got to keep the strong economy going. We got to support the president's policies. And when you talk national defense, of course, with me being in the military for the last 33 years, national defense is very important to me. And I believe I have the best job in the United States military, and that's caring for our warriors.
Yeah.
But if I really never had to take care of another combat casualty again, that wouldn't be a sad thing for me, because that means that our, America's sons and daughters aren't being injured on the battlefield. This president is so cognizant of the toll it takes on the soldier, sailor, airman, Marine that goes out there and fights on behalf of this nation. And we saw that when he got Baghdadi. If you, when he planned that mission, and it was so well orchestrated, and no American lives were lost, and we had no civilian casualties, and it achieved the objective, and he got in and got out. Those are the things we need to support. That's good for America.
That's right. So putting that together is no easy job, as you probably know better than me. But I think that worked very well.
Absolutely.
And I hope that some of the things, I don't know how you feel about the VA and everything, but from what I'm reading, that still needs a little bit of taken care of.
It still needs work, but let me tell you something. The president has put a lot of money. He's put about $80 billion towards VA, improving the VA. Part of that has gone for treatment of PTSD, which is really important. He got the Mission Act passed so that our veterans can go outside of the VA system to get the care that they need, close to home. We all know that when you're ill, being close to family and being close to your community improves your outcome for your healing. And so the Mission Act helps support that. President's done a great job with that. I go out and talk to a lot of veterans groups. I'm the I'm the junior vice of I get my jobs confused, but I'm the junior vice of my VFW post in Concord. And I go to a lot of meetings that have veterans at them. I go to a lot of veteran activities. And I ask the question every time I go, how is your care in the VA now that President Trump's been our president? And universally, everywhere I go, people say it has improved. So that, while that's not...
Well, in a way, some of the solutions are, there's more competition within the VA. The veterans can go someplace else if they don't think they're being served properly.
Sure. Well, and I think the president did a great job. His new Whistleblower Act really made it possible to remove those people who weren't doing their jobs. And so, when we hear the stories of the folks at some of these VAs who literally died waiting in line to get their care, and then the care they got wasn't great, those are, when we're seeing improvements there, that means a lot, especially to the veteran community.
Well, while you're talking on health care, your comments on Medicare for everybody, I wonder if they're going to have that same kind of ability to fire people that aren't doing their job with Medicare. They're giving a government organization the monopoly. And how can you do a monopoly? How do you compete with yourself?
Right,
how do you look for, you can say you're trying to do it high level, but what happens with a monopoly? The reason why it's illegal for commercial companies to have a monopoly is because you don't get that. You don't get improvements.
Right. Well, it's called value-based care.
Right.
And, when you have to show outcomes, and when patients are going into the hospital and coming out sicker, or God forbid, not coming out at all, or coming out injured, then, it's time to start holding facilities accountable for that. And I've been in healthcare my whole adult life. I've worked at the bedside, and I pride myself in the fact that I give good quality care. But when you have a system that sets itself up so that we can't provide that quality care, that's a problem. And so I'm glad to see that we're going to value-based outcomes where, when the system falls short, there's no reimbursement and there's accountability for that, and we start unraveling that and getting to the source of why did this patient go to the hospital and not get the care, not get the treatment, not get the diagnostic, not get the whatever they needed to have a good outcome.
And I think it lives up more to the values that we here in New Hampshire hold, important. We want options. We want choice that we can make.
Absolutely. Well, everybody does. And we do that with everything else. When you shop for car insurance or you shop for brakes, you don't just go into the first shop and if they tell you it's $20,000, you don't pay that. You say, I'm going down the road. I'm going to make a few phone calls. I'm going to check a few websites and see if I can get a better deal. And we don't do that with our health care.
No.
We really don't. We go where our insurance company tells us to go. And we get what our doctor tells us to get from the place that our doctor tells us to get it from. And so we don't shop around. And you're right. When you have choices, you can.
I think it's becoming more important, too, is the sophistication of what's available in crews. I mean, there's a heck of a lot of things that are being developed. I don't know if you saw anything in the VA, but a friend of mine who's an anesthesiologist has come up with a pad that you can test the people's circulation in their feet. So a diabetic, because as an anesthesiologist, he said he saw so many people getting their limbs cut off, that now you can stand on it and you have a pattern of circulation.
Oh, wow.
And it's
I hope he's patented it.
Well, it's patented, and it's being tried out under FDA rules at the VAs.
Oh, good.
Yeah, the VA is the one. I guess they had more than anybody else of that, unfortunately. But I thought that was an excellent thing. That all you do is you stand on it for a minute, and you got a pattern that's on the computer, and you can compare it day to day if you want.
Well, that's good.
That's the development of a lot of these different pieces of equipment. It's just fantastic, People seeing what's being done in something that's completely different, different field, and adapting it to a medical problem.
Yeah. Well, and the military is really good about that. Every war that we've had have brought about Herculean changes in the way we do medicine. And that benefits all of the non-military. Antibiotics were developed for, and how we deliver care, and especially trauma and critical care, that sort of stuff. And so we are seeing changes. And now, because of this last war with so many amputees, we've seen so many just unbelievable innovations in caring for people who have prosthetic limbs, and now we can actually put another, another human arm right on and reattach it. So we're making,
and a lot of that's done in our state.
I know, right here we have a couple of people,
Right.
who are very innovative and, scientists and innovators, and they are just really making improvements, which is great. And I love when I go out in the military community and somebody tells me they have a device that I know was made right here in the state of New Hampshire. It just makes me feel so proud to know that our state is on the cutting edge of innovation.
Well, I think our state's been doing a good job too in just general business. We're getting more companies coming in here, and I think we've really the top one for doing that in the New England area.
Oh, that's why we have such a low unemployment rate and why folks are thriving. Did you know that under the Trump administration, just in the 3 years President Trump has been our president, 5.5 million people have come off of food stamps?
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
and that's not because they cut the program
No.
or changed the program.
Right.
That's because America is so prosperous right now that they're able to go out and buy their own groceries because they're jobs. And I can only imagine what it's like for the mom or dad to come home with the groceries in their arms and put them on the table, and the sense of pride that they have in knowing that they provided for their family tonight.
Right.
It's
amazing what that can do for everybody.
And it doesn't take cutting a program. It takes building people up. It takes prosperity. In President Trump's first year as president of the United States, 600,000 women alone were lifted out of poverty.
Well,
It's mind-boggling what this president has done for us.
you were holding a position in a women's group, weren't you?
Yes. So I was appointed on President Trump's Women's Advisory Board, and I was on that position, and I was brought on around June or July, and I stayed in the position until I announced that I've run for Congress. And while I still work behind the scenes, helping the president and helping advance his message, I'm not officially on the board anymore, just because it's a conflict.
Sure.
And so,
Yeah.
but I still, work to try to help get our president reelected, and certainly.
But now you know what the situation is better. You got a little bit of inside information.
Oh, absolutely. As we took our show on the road from July to October, or June to October, as I was going out, I went across down the East Coast, speaking on behalf of the president. We talked on women's issues during Women's Equality Day and that whole month of August. We did a salute to service, and we talked about how our service members are better off. We've talked about the economy and how it's grown just in general. And but my favorite really was, remember not too long ago, President Trump didn't act on the Kurd, with the Kurds, the Turkey and Syria. And there was this big kerfuffle, and people were saying, oh, the president's got Kurdish blood on his hands. And I just kept saying, he knows something more than us.
That's exactly
I firmly believe, and I have full faith and confidence in this president, that he's making good decisions, and he surrounded himself with generals and admirals who are going to make good decisions for our warfighters. And then what happened 2 weeks later? He needed to get into that airspace. He needed to not be in a little kerfuffle with all those folks, because he needed to get in there to get to Baghdadi.
And not have the outside
Exactly.
problems.
He didn't need to have a war going on in a place he was trying to get into and get to. He's a very, very smart man, and he certainly is very calculated. And that perfectly orchestrated mission just underscored my
Well, he takes a lot of
confidence
flack. He thinks that's the way to actually get more done. He's there as the main target, and he knows what he's doing. I agree with you there.
No,
but
I
we
think-
don't know exactly what's happening.
You know what the saddest part of that is, Carl, is that he doesn't have faith in our Congress to be able to share that with them. And that's sad. When you have people like Nancy Pelosi and AOC, and sadly our own Congresswoman Ann Custer taking selfies with all of them and admitting she's afraid of Nancy Pelosi. When you have those people that are so vile and so toxic in our Congress, who the president can't confide in because they know he knows
It's
they're
gonna
going to
be
go out and
leaked
leak.
all over the place,
He just
yeah.
knows they're going to go right out there and spill the beans, and then that compromises the American warfighter. It compromises our border, our security, and it certainly compromises the individual warfighter.
I think it's a little bit worse. In fact, the media takes up that kind of information and spreads it around.
Yes, yeah.
That's-
Absolutely, absolutely. But, you know, Carl, there is a good news story. We can change the face of the
That's right,
Congress. We
right.
absolutely can.
We
and
have to.
We have to. And that's why when we have candidates like me who are willing to go in there, bring my military work ethic and my ethos with me of being able to work together regardless of our differences, for the common good, which in the military's case is protect and defend the Constitution and the country. Oh wait, Congress takes a very similar oath. So for me, it's same oath, different mission, right?
Yeah,
They're there to look out for the behalf of the state or the country. You know, if we can get more people who will come to Congress and work like that, instead of going down rabbit holes looking for a crime to impeach when there isn't one, and this vitriol and this hatred for an individual, that they actually put hatred above patriotism or
Right.
above being an American. And that's a really sad state.
Yeah.
You know, it really is.
I agree with you. I don't see how the people, the media, I tune on some of those stations there every once in a while just to see whether anything's changed, and it's changed for the worse. You know, it's really bad this last couple of months.
Yeah, they've really gotten.
I don't know if it's going to continue that way, or hopefully not. But I know our local parties here are the one party's coming out with some nasty information that really isn't correct.
But, you know, we have some great role models, too, in Congress. And I don't want to paint Congress with a terrible brush. We certainly, you know, being a woman myself, Elise Stefanik has really risen to the occasion. She is polished, she's eloquent, she's educated, she's, you know, especially on the issues. I think she's been a tremendous role model for women in this nation. And then, you know, we have the Dan Crenshaws and the Michael Waltzes and the Lee Zeldins and the Nuna, you know, I mean, I could go on and on
Yeah.
with a number of folks who are really, really committed to working hard for America. And that's why I want to go to Congress. I want to join forces with those folks who really get it. And let's get Congress back on track. Let's get it working, you know, get Congress working for the people instead of against the people. And let's move forward.
Well, how do you think you can best accomplish that?
Well, you know, fortunately, part of it's building alliances.
Yeah.
You know, you have to do that. And fortunately for me, I've served in the military for a long time. And regardless of the uniform we wear or the color of our skin, regardless if we're male or female, we all come together and we do our job for the betterment of America. And we do that in protection of the Constitution and protection of this United States. And if 1 million people in a uniform can do it, 435 people in Congress should be able to do it. And so I want to bring that ethos with me. I want to partner with some of those folks like the Dan Crenshaws, the Michael Waltz, the Lee Zeldins, you know, the other veterans in the organization who get it, who understand how to work like that and just work together. There's another caucus, the Problem Solvers Caucus. It's run by Tom Reed, and he has an equal number of Democrats and Republicans who have agreed to work together on pieces of legislation for the betterment of America. I would love to, you know, investigate them and work with them and get that. I like that thought process of being able to work together. But it's going to take getting out, you know, voting out those people who refuse to work. You know, and the ones who spend their efforts and energies on witch hunts, those need to go.
Yeah.
You know, it's time for them to go. And we need to start working on. We've got a continuing resolution that we're not advanced. You know, that really impacts national security.
No way. Yeah, right. That's not the way to run a business.
No. And every time there's a government shutdown, military training stops, and we can see that there's missions going on right now. In my command, I have almost 60 people in the pipeline or deployed.
Oh, really?
Overseas, whether it's Afghanistan, Iraq, Djibouti, you know, or other areas across the globe that need medical support for their war fighters or for the folks that are out there. You know, so we need to be training our folks. We need to be a ready force for you, for America, so that we can, that we can protect the country. And when you have continuing resolutions, government shutdowns, we have this threat of financing, not financing, it shuts training down and it shuts mission accomplishment down.
Well, it's hard to have a good plan implemented if you're not sure
Right.
when you can do things.
Yeah. Yeah, but training is so important, and we
Yeah.
train. When I was younger in the Air Force, when I was over in Desert Storm, every month during the Cold War, we trained how to put our gear on, our MOP gear, our chemical gear.
Yeah.
And every time a klaxon went off, I could put my gear on fast. And I knew I could put my gear on and protect myself so that I could get out there and protect those who were caught in the blast or caught in the, the event. So that's important. Training, it creates muscle memory. And most recently, I came upon an accident, and my training, it was there, it was ready, and the person did very well after the accident. And that's important because my training kicked in.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I have a relative who was in one of those. He's talking about muscle memory and how that, protects him as well as any others.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize you could really get into that form, where you just did it automatically.
Right. It does. It just becomes second nature. So, absolutely.
So, well, anyway, what do you think is the next big thing for you to do to get in? Are you going to have some kind of events coming up?
Well, we do. We have one tonight, actually, right here in Nashua. There'll be one down at Sub-Zero Ice Cream. I have good friends that have opened their Sub-Zero nitrogen
the
ice
one
cream
on
shop.
Amherst Street?
On Amherst Street
Yeah.
at 6 p.m. tonight. You can come have some ice cream. We'll chat. And then there's another one coming up on December 10th at Fulcino's Vineyard. And good friends, again, good supporters who are out there helping me out, meet some people, and hopefully folks can buy a bottle of wine, I guess. Well, for Christmas gifts, it's a great wine.
Yeah.
So that's really good. And, right now we're just really aggressively fundraising.
Oh, yeah,
It's really
that's what you have
important.
to
But
do.
folks can definitely donate on our website. It's
Okay.
right there at blankenbecker.com, and write checks. I can mail them right to my post office box, which is just 898
Okay.
Concord
That
03302.
should appear in the information after the end of this.
Yeah,
tape.
great. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And then good luck on that, I guess.
Yeah,
You've got a lot of work ahead of you.
We
but
do,
you have
but it's
about
good.
11 months now,
Yes,
right?
we do. But Carl, thank you so much for having me. It's always a
You're
pleasure to
quite
catch
welcome.
up. Thank you.
Well, thank you again.
Okay.
That's a wrap.
Good.
That is the fastest 27 minutes, isn't it?